You're ungrateful. Get out and never come back." My mom screamed as she slammed the door in my face. So I left, quietly, without a word. Weeks later, my dad texted me in a panic. "Why haven't you paid the mortgage yet?" I simply replied, "Oh, I thought I wasn't welcome here." Seconds later, my phone blew up with calls, apologies, and desperation. But by then, I'd moved on. "Your name is Evan. You are 27, and about 6 months ago, you walked out of your parents' house, believing it was for the last time. You didn't slam the door, you didn't yell, and you didn't even pack much, just a duffel bag with a few changes of clothes and your laptop. You were done, completely done. Yet, here you are, sitting on your couch in your new apartment, staring at your phone as it buzzed nonstop with messages from your parents, their numbers flashing across the screen like a bad joke. It was almost funny. Almost. Let's rewind, because if you're reading this, you're probably wondering how you got here. The invisible son growing up, your parents weren't exactly warm. You wouldn't say they were outright abusive, but love in your house always came with conditions. You were the responsible one, the dependable one, the kid who never rebelled, never got into trouble, never gave them a reason to complain. Your older brother, Zach? Oh, he was the golden child. He could do no wrong, even when he was undeniably wrong. He dropped out of college. He's just finding himself. He got fired from 3 corporate jobs in a row. Corporate jobs just don't appreciate his creativity. He moved back home at 30 with no job and no real prospects. Times are tough. For everyone. Meanwhile, you got your first job at 16, put yourself through college on scholarships and part-time gigs, and started working in finance straight out of school. You never asked your parents for a dime. But guess who did? Zach. And guess who was expected to pick up the slack when your parents started struggling with their mortgage? Yeah, that would be you. You didn't complain at first. You had the money, and they were your parents. Families help each other. They never outright demanded it, but the guilt trips were insidious. Mom would sigh dramatically when you visited, talking about how hard things had been lately and how we're just a little short this month. Dad would casually mention how Zach was trying so hard, but just needed a little more time to get on his feet. You knew what they were doing, and you let them do it. At first, it was just covering their utility bills here and there. Then it was groceries. Then a temporary contribution to the mortgage. Temporary stretched into every single month. Soon, you were paying for almost everything outside of their car payments. And Zach, he just sat around the house, playing video games, acting like a guest in his own home. You gritted your teeth and dealt with it. You figured they were your family. Families help each other. The breaking point, but then, 6 months ago, things came to a head. It was a Sunday afternoon, and you had just finished a long week at work. You stopped by your parents' house, as you usually did, bringing over a few groceries because you knew they would have forgotten to go shopping again. You walked in, bags in hand, only to find Mom sitting in the living room, arms crossed, lips pressed into that thin line she always got when she was gearing up for an argument. Zach was on the couch, as usual, looking completely unbothered, tapping away on his phone. Dad was standing in the kitchen, shaking his head like he was disappointed in you for something you hadn't even done. You barely had time to say hey before Mom launched into it. "We need to talk, Evan." That was never a good sign. You set the bags down, already exhausted. "About what?" Dad sighed, stepping forward. "We've been talking, and we think it's time you contribute more. You make good money, and it's not fair for us to be struggling while you're living on your own, spending your paycheck however you want." You just blinked. "I already am contributing." Mom scoffed. "A few bills here and there? That's nothing compared to what we need." Your hands curled into fists at your sides. "I've been covering the mortgage for the past 2 years. That's not nothing." Zach, who had been silent up until now, actually had the nerve to roll his eyes. "Come on, man. You know they've done a lot for us. It's just money." "Us?" You snapped, your gaze darting to him. "I don't see you paying for anything." That set Mom off. "Don't talk to your brother like that. He's trying his best." You let out a humorless laugh. "Really? Because from where I'm standing, all he's trying to do is set a world record for most consecutive hours spent doing absolutely nothing." Dad stepped in, his voice sharp. "Enough. We're asking you to step up. The house is too much for us to handle alone. If you were a good son, you'd take responsibility." Something in you snapped. Right then, you had given them everything, your time, your money, your patience. And it was never enough. It was never going to be enough. You inhaled slowly. Let me get this straight. You want me to take over the mortgage completely? Pay for everything, while Zach continues to do nothing, and you don't see anything wrong with that? Mom's lips thinned. We just thought, as our son, you'd want to help your family. And what exactly is Zach? You asked, your voice dangerously calm. A houseplant. Zach sat up, glaring at you. I hate you, dude. I didn't ask for this. No, you said, grabbing your bag, but you sure did benefit from it. Mom stood up, anger rolling off her in waves. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. You stared at her for a long moment, and then finally, you smiled. Okay, you said simply, and you walked out. No dramatic speeches, no yelling. Just done. The silence, then the storm. You ignored the calls at first, then the texts. You moved into your own apartment, finally free, and for the first time in your life, you felt like you could actually breathe. But today? Oh, today was different. Because after 6 months of silence, Dad finally texted you. Dad texted, "Why haven't you paid the mortgage this month?" You stared at the message for a second, then let out a slow exhale, feeling something dark and satisfied settle in your chest. You typed out your reply. "Oh, I thought I wasn't welcome." And then your phone exploded with messages. You leaned back on your couch, watching the notifications flood in. You weren't done yet, not even close. You watched your phone vibrate violently. Against the coffee table, the screen lighting up with a barrage of messages, one after another, texts from your parents, and, surprisingly, even Zach. It poured like a dam had just broken. You didn't touch it, not at first. You just sat back, arms crossed, staring at it like it was some wild animal thrashing around in a cage. You could already imagine what they were saying. Mom was probably furious, demanding to know how you could be so selfish after everything they had done for you. Dad would be trying to sound reasonable at first, appealing to your sense of duty, before eventually caving to frustration when you didn't immediately respond. And Zach, you weren't even sure what his angle was, but if you had to guess, he was either trying to guilt trip you or act like this whole situation had nothing to do with him. Curiosity finally got the better of you, and you picked up your phone. Mom texted, "What is wrong with you? How could you do this to us? The bank just called. We're late on the mortgage payment. Are you really this cruel?" Dad texted, "Evan, this is serious. We can't afford to be behind on the mortgage. We could lose the house. Call me now." Mom texted, "I can't believe you're doing this out of spite. We raised you, and this is how you repay us? You think you're punishing us, but you're just hurting your family." Dad texted, "Don't be childish. You're not a kid anymore, and we can't handle this on our own. You need to step up." Zach texted, "Dude, what? You know they don't have the money. Are you really going to let Mom and Dad lose the house just to prove a point?" Ah, there it was. The guilt trip, right on schedule. You could have responded right away, but you didn't. Instead, you leaned back and let them stew. Let the panic settle in. Let them start realizing, maybe for the first time, that you weren't their safety net anymore. After about 20 minutes, your phone buzzed again, a call from Dad. You let it go to voicemail. Then a call from Mom, straight to voicemail. Another text from Zach. Zach texted, "Answer your phone. This isn't funny." You smiled to yourself. Funny. That's exactly what you found it to be. Because for years, you had been pouring money into that house like a fool. No questions asked, no complaints. And yet, the second you stopped, everything fell apart. So what? Had they been doing all this time? Did they even try to prepare for this? You decided to respond, but you weren't going to waste time arguing. You replied, "Not my problem." It took exactly 10 seconds for Mom to call again. This time, you picked up. The second you answered, she was already screaming. "How dare you?" she shrieked. "You can't just abandon your family like this, Evan. You know we need your help. We trusted you." You kept your voice calm. "Oh, like how you trusted me to just keep paying for everything while Zach does nothing all day. Don't talk about your brother like that," she snapped. "He's going through a rough time. You have no idea how hard it is for him." You laughed, actually laughed. "A rough time, Mom? Zach's been going through a rough time for 10 years. You know who else had a rough time? Me, while I was working hard to keep a roof over your heads." She sucked in a breath, but you weren't done.
"You told me not to come back," you continued, "so I didn't. And now that the money's dried up, you're suddenly acting like I owe you something. That's not how this works." She was quiet for a second. Then her voice turned venomous. "We did everything For you, Evan, everything. And this is how you treat us. You walk away when we need you the most. Let out a slow breath. No, Mom. I walked away when you made it clear I was only useful as long as I was paying your bills. Silence. Then Dad's voice cut in. He must have grabbed the phone from her. Evan, he said, his voice lower, more measured. We just need a little help just this month. We're already behind and we don't have enough to cover it. If you don't help, the bank is going to start foreclosure proceedings. You felt something sharp twist in your chest. Not guilt. Anger. Because this was what they did. Always push, 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 until you had no choice but to give in. Make you feel like the bad guy for finally setting boundaries. But not this time. You exhaled through your nose. Sell the house. Then Mom's voice exploded in the background. Can't sell the house. This is our family home. You shrugged, even though they couldn't see you. It sounds like a personal problem. Dad inhaled sharply, like he was trying to keep his cool. Evan, be reasonable. We just need a little support until we figure things out. Figure things out? You repeated, voice flat. I gotta finally get Zach to pull his weight. Or how? To guilt-trip me into fixing your mistakes again. Enough, Dad snapped. I'm done begging. You're our son, and you will help us. You felt your lips curl into a slow, bitter smile. There it was, the real them. Not desperate, not helpless, entitled. Well, you said, dragging out the word, it looks like you'll have to figure this one. Out on your own then? You hung up? Almost immediately more texts came in from Mom, from Dad, from Zach, furious, desperate, insulting. But you didn't care? For the first time in years, you finally felt free. But something told you this wasn't over yet, not even close. The unveiling a few hours passed and you were feeling good. Really good. Stretched out on your couch, flipped through some random TV channels, and enjoyed the rare silence of a day where you weren't getting sucked into your family's endless black hole of demands. Then your phone rang. You sighed, already knowing who it was. But when you checked the screen, you actually laughed. Zach again. You let it ring out. A voicemail popped up a minute later. You played it on speaker, mostly for your own amusement. Dude, Zach started, his voice low and serious, like he was some kind of mafia enforcer. You really messed up this. Time, Mom's crying, Dad's freaking out. You need to call them back and fix this. You rolled your eyes. Fix this. Like you had set their house on fire instead of just stopping your unwilling role as their personal ATM. You were about to delete the message when Zach's voice lowered even more. It's like he was about to deliver some real tough guy wisdom. You're being selfish, man. You think you're proving some big point, but all you're doing is destroying our family. I swear, if you don't pay the mortgage, I'll click. You deleted the voicemail before he could finish. Zach had always been full of empty threats. What was he going to do? Yell at you harder? Beg for money aggressively? Ow! Before you could even put your phone down, another text came in, this time from Dad. You don't seem to understand the gravity of the situation. This isn't just about us. If we lose the house, you won't have anywhere to come back to either. You laughed, come back? Did they think you were going to come crawling back if they just let this go long enough? You tapped out? A response, me. I seem to be doing just fine without it. That must have struck a nerve, because 2 seconds later, your phone exploded with a call from Mom. Against your better judgment, you picked up. I hope you're happy, Evan, she shrieked. No hello, no build-up, just straight to emotional terrorism. They called again. We have days before they take our home. How could you do this to us? He held back a yawn. You mean the home I apparently had no right to exist in anymore? That one? Don't you dare mock me, young man. Oh, I dare, he said lazily. I really, really dare. She let out a furious noise, somewhere between a gasp and a growl. You continued, your voice syrupy sweet. Mom, let's recap. A few weeks ago, you told me I was ungrateful and that I should leave. Leave and never come back. So I left and never came back. And now you're mad at me for doing exactly what you said? That's not the point. Oh, I think it is. You don't. Understand? She seethed. This house means everything to us. It's the house you grew up in. And yet, the second I stop paying for it, it's about to collapse like a house of cards. Wild, huh? Silence? You smirked. Say, While we're at it, I gotta ask, what exactly was the plan here? You knew for years that I was covering the mortgage. So what was the grand strategy if something happened to me? Or did you just assume I'd keep slaving away forever? You let out a fake gasp. Oh no, you didn't actually think that far ahead, did you? Mom inhaled sharply, like she was about to go on another tirade, but you cut her off. You know, I've been thinking, you said. Maybe it's time for Zach to step up. I mean, he does. Live there rent-free. Seems only fair, right?
Oh.
Mom actually had the audacity to laugh, like you had just said the funniest joke she'd ever heard, Zach. She scoffed. Oh, Evan, don't be ridiculous. Zach isn't built for that kind of responsibility. Interesting, you mused. So what you're saying is that I, your other son, was just expected to do it because I was built for responsibility? You were always the responsible one, she sniffed. You always knew how to take care of things, unlike Zach. You cut her off with a chuckle, a cold, sharp one. Got it, you said. So I was punished for being responsible, and Zach was rewarded for being a leech. Thanks for finally saying it out loud. Evan, stop being dramatic. Well, you haven't seen dramatic yet, you said cheerfully. Tell you what, since I'm in such a good mood, I'll make you an offer. There was a beat of hesitation.
Oh, what kind?
Of offer, I'll call the bank, you said. Right now. Mom inhaled sharply, like she was about to cry with relief. You will? Yeah, you grinned. I'll call them and ask how long you've actually been behind on payments. Because let's be real. There's no way this problem started the moment I stopped paying. Silence. Dead silence. You leaned back in your chair, enjoying the moment. Oh, you didn't think I'd figure that out? You teased. You've probably been missing payments for months, haven't you? But you figured as long as I kept covering for, you'd be fine. Mom's breathing grew shaky. Evan, I wonder what else I'll find out, you mused. Maybe how much of my money actually went to the mortgage and how much of it just disappeared. No, Evan, listen. Oops, gotta go. You said cheerfully. You know how it is. So many calls to make. You could already imagine the chaos on the other end. Mom panicking, Dad pacing. Zach sitting there like a useless lump, wondering if this was the part where he finally had to be a functional adult. But this was only the beginning. Because now you were really mad. The truth uncovered the moment you hung up. Your phone started blowing up again. Calls, texts, voicemails. 1 second, they were kicking you out like you were some useless extra in their perfect little family, and the next, they were desperately trying to reel you back in. Too bad for them, you weren't biting. Instead, you leaned back and scrolled. Through your banking app, checking old transfers you had made to them over the years. Thousands and thousands of dollars, all sent like clockwork. But here's the thing. If the mortgage was barely being paid now, what had they been doing with all that money before? That question buzzed in your mind as you finally made a call. To them, but to the bank. It took a few minutes to get through, but when you finally spoke to someone, you explained the situation in your best concerned and responsible adult voice. Hi, I used to handle my parents' mortgage payments, but I recently stopped. I just wanted to check the status of their account. The rep asked you a few questions, then put you on hold. And when she came back, the answer nearly made you laugh. Out loud, sir? It looks like the account has been delinked from payment for nearly 8 months. 8 months. You ran a hand through your hair, suppressing a whistle. Wow. So you're saying that even while I was sending them money, they weren't paying? It appears so, yes. Now that was gold. You ended the call, a grin stretching across your face. Oh, they were done, but you weren't done yet. You took a deep breath. Then, for the first time since all this started, you actually called Zach back. The phone barely rang before he picked up. Evan, finally. Dude, you need to fix this. Hey, quick question, you interrupted. You think all the money I sent went? Silence. The bank says they haven't received a full mortgage payment in nearly 8 months. So where did it go, Zach? A long pause. Then I don't know what you're talking about. You snorted. Oh, come on, man. You live there. You had to notice something. Mom and Dad suddenly buying more stuff, taking trips. Where did the money go? Spluttered. Why does that matter? The point is, you cut in, they've been lying. They've been letting me pay while they pocketed the rest. And now they're only freaking out because they finally ran out of my money. Another silence. Then suddenly, Zach let out a frustrated breath. You don't get it, Evan. Your parents. They needed help. Oh, trust me, you said, your voice dripping with sarcasm. I got that memo loud and clear. In fact, I got it on repeat every month for years. You're being cruel. Zach shot back. You're letting them suffer. No, Zach. I'm letting them face the consequences of their own stupidity. You could practically hear his jaw clenching. But before he could try another guilt trip, you hit him with the real kicker. You know, I was actually going to feel bad about all this, you said. But after learning they were lying to me for almost a year, nah, they can figure this out without me. You're making a mistake, Zach growled. You smirked. Yeah, well, see? And you hung up. You barely had time to toss your phone on the couch before the next call came in, Mom. Of course. You let it ring, then another call, then another, and then a text. Mom texted, we need to talk right now. You smirked and typed back. Oh, now I'm part of the family again. That's cute. Almost instantly, Mom texted, stop this. You're ruining everything. You cracked your knuckles, grinning. Ruining everything? No. You were just getting started. You sat back on the couch, staring at your phone. The messages from Mom and Dad were still coming through, each one more desperate than the last. Your phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Dad. Dad texted, I can't believe you're doing this after everything we've done for you. You're going to let us lose the house? What kind of son are you? You scoffed and shook your head. Everything they've done for me. If you had $1 for every time they've manipulated you with that line, you could have paid off their mortgage yourself. It was the same tired guilt trip tactic they always used, but not this time. You weren't falling for it anymore. You opened your messages and fired back, typing each word with deliberate calmness. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. You both keep asking what kind of son I am, but it seems like I'm the only one who's actually been paying attention. I'm not the one who failed to pay the bills. I'm not the one who ignored the problem for months. Maybe it's time you both learn to deal with your own messes. Your thumb hovered over the screen. You almost hit send immediately, but instead you took a deep breath. You weren't going to make this easy for them. This wasn't just about the mortgage anymore. It was about finally taking control back. You hit send. A few seconds later, Dad called, picked up on the third ring, trying to keep your voice steady. Evan, this isn't you. We raised you better than this, you know. We've always been there for you. Really? You retorted. Because the only thing I remember is you always being there for your own convenience. You couldn't stop yourself. The bitterness you had buried for years was finally spilling out. I've been covering your debts for so long I can't even count. How many times I saved your asses. But every time I needed you, you were either too busy or too wrapped up in your own mess to even care. And now, now you want to call me ungrateful? There was a long pause on the other end. You could almost feel him scrambling for the right words. We're sorry, Evan, he said finally, his voice cracking. We messed up, but please, we need your help. You know we're not going to make it without you. You paused, your fingers tapping the armrest. No, Dad, you need to learn to stand on your own. You've been living off my generosity for too long. It's not my responsibility to fix your mistakes anymore. Please, he begged, don't do this. We'll pay you back, we swear. You couldn't help but let out a humorless laugh. It's funny, because I've been waiting for that payback for years. Where is it, Dad? Where's the appreciation for everything I've done? More silence. Then finally he said, Evan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. You've been more than generous and I took you for granted. But don't let us lose the house, please. I'm begging you. This is everything. It was a weak plea, the kind of plea you had grown used to over the years. But this time it didn't work. You said flatly, you're going to learn how to deal with this on your own? I'm done. You hung up before he could say anything else. He felt a strange mix of satisfaction and relief. This wasn't a victory over them, it was freedom. Finally, you were no longer their safety net. But then you saw another text from Mom. You don't understand. You'll regret this. You'll see how far this will go. We need you, Evan. Don't let this ruin everything. You almost snorted. She still didn't get it. You both still thought you were. Just a tool to be used until it was convenient for them. You fired back another text without hesitation. You've had enough time. I'm done bailing you out. Deal with the mess you made. And you turned your phone off. Felt like an emotional weight had been lifted, but at the same time, couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. So here you are. Asking for an opinion. Did you go too far? Should you have tried to find another way to resolve this? Or did you finally do the right thing by cutting them off and forcing them to face the consequences of their actions?
Yes.
You really want to know what people think. Your actions and their impact, Evan. Your story is a powerful illustration of emotional and financial abuse disguised as familial obligation. You were trapped in a cycle where your worth was measured by your utility in your family consistently. Prioritized your brother Zach's needs over your well-being, while simultaneously exploiting your generosity. Let's break down your actions and their potential implications. Setting boundaries. Your initial act of walking out and then 6 months later, refusing to immediately jump back into solving their problem was a crucial step in establishing boundaries. For years, your boundaries were non-existent, allowing them to take advantage. This current situation is a direct result of their choices, not yours. The leech revelation. When your mother called you a leech and kicked you out, it was a moment of profound clarity. It stripped away any lingering illusions about their appreciation or love being unconditional. This insult, ironically, was likely the catalyst for your newfound freedom. Forcing accountability by refusing to simply fix their bank account without a conversation. You forced them to acknowledge their behavior and the impact it had on you. Their desperation for your help made them finally admit, albeit reluctantly, that they needed you, which was an admission they previously avoided. Uncovering the deception, the revelation that they had been delinking payments for 8 months while still accepting your money is a significant betrayal. This moves beyond mere poor financial management into deliberate deception and exploitation. This fact alone justifies your firm stance, protecting your peace. Moving to Toronto and actively removing yourself from their financial affairs demonstrates a commitment to your own well-being and future. You've created a physical and emotional distance that is essential for healing and growth. Did you go too far? Many would argue that you absolutely did not go too far. Your actions, while seemingly harsh to an outside observer, were a necessary response to years of being taken for granted, manipulated, and disrespected. You are not obligated to continue enabling their irresponsible behavior or to sacrifice your own financial stability and emotional peace for people who viewed you as a resource rather than a loved one. Consider the alternatives. Continuing to provide support. This would have meant perpetuating the cycle of dependence, reinforcing their belief that you would always be there to clean up their messes, and further eroding your own self-worth. Softer approach. You tried this for years. Your quiet contributions, your willingness to help, your attempts to communicate your feelings were consistently ignored or dismissed. They only responded when their own comfort and security were threatened. Your decision to force them to face the consequences of their actions, including the potential loss of their home, is a difficult but ultimately necessary step for them to learn accountability. It's a harsh lesson, but one they actively avoided for years at your expense. Ultimately, your actions were an act of self-preservation. This is not about revenge. It's about establishing healthy boundaries and reclaiming your life. What do you think will be the long-term impact of your decision on your relationship with your family?